Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Every Other Friday Off. Today, the 500 Abarth is getting more power. Woohoo! We're going to add the Open Flash Tablet Stage 1 tune, and we're also going to throw in some Brisk racing spark plugs and some Alfa Romeo 4C coils in order to protect ourselves from all the awesome power we'll be making. So let's get started. Whatever you've got up on top of the coils, in my case an intake, maybe in yours an engine cover, it's got to go. Voila! On top of the head, the coils and plugs are actually pretty well exposed. Believe it or not, we're about to do an easy job on a Fiat 500 Abarth engine. Step 1 is to fight the little plastic connectors on the coils. There's a little black plastic tab that needs to come up so the little yellow tab can get pried out. And once the yellow tab's out of the way, you can wiggle and wiggle and wiggle to get that connector off. This is going to be fun in about 20 years when that plastic's brittle as can be. That's the hard part about keeping a modern car. I had an old BMW that if you just looked at the plastic, it would snap. For the furthest to the passenger side cylinder, there's some sort of line, let's call it a CCV line, right over the top of the coil. So I remove it at the plastic doohickey box, technical term, in order to get it out of the way. There's a single bolt to be removed from each coil. It is, of course, 10 millimeters. Now I'm going to jiggle and move the spaghetti out of the way so I can pull the coil out. You want to try to pull straight out. There it is. When we pull the plug, we'll be opening a hole to all the juicy bits of the engine. So we need to have a look to make sure that it's clear of oil and debris. Now it's time to take the old plugs out. I'm using a 5/8" deep well spark plug socket and a long extension. The plugs should have gone in with only about 12 foot-pounds of torque, and they're threaded into your vitally important head, so be careful getting them out. And here it comes, and yuck, that is a very corroded electrode. Apparently, the Abarths just eat spark plugs, and mine at 30,000 miles is no exception. Here are our Brisk racing plugs. Now these racing plugs require a self-cleaning cycle every 150 to 200 miles, which requires high revs, fast accelerations, and general hooning. Well, I guess I can. They come pre-gapped to 21 thousandths of an inch, but I always like to verify. There it is. Quality. Nice. Why do you need to invest eights of dollars on a fancy spark plug wrench? Well, it's got a little rubber keeper in the top that holds the tip, keeps it from breaking, and keeps it from falling out of your wrench when you've got it upside down. Standard warning, you've only got one head and it's underneath lots and lots of stuff, so be very careful not to cross-thread your spark plugs into the head. If it doesn't thread in easily under just finger pressure, you're doing it wrong. Plugs get torqued to 12 to 14 foot-pounds, so I set my wrench on 13. It's not a lot. Coils are a pretty tight fit into their bore. I'm not really sure if you can install them wrong, but you don't get that satisfying pop of an old spark plug wire. Go ahead and replace the bolt that retains the coil. I didn't grab a torque spec, but once again, not a lot on these. Go ahead and replace your electrical connector. The lengths are all short enough that it's pretty hard to grab the wrong one. And when you're done, slide the yellow clip back into place and lock the black tab. And we need to replace and reclamp that hose that we pulled off earlier. That's one down, 3 more to go. And while we time-lapse our way through the other 3, let's talk about why we're doing this. The tune we're about to install is going to bring in more boost earlier, and that puts the engine at risk of detonation. To protect against that, we want our ignition system in tip-top shape, hence plugs and coils. Ensuring we get the right, clean spark every time helps protect against detonation. So I'm not really looking for power out of these mods, I'm looking for protection. And success. Only complaint, the coils should have cool little scorpions on them. Even if you're not planning a tune, take a look at how trashed my plugs are at only 30,000 miles. Here's what you get in the mail with your open flash tuner. You get the tablet itself. You get a sticker. Vendors take note, we all want stickers. You get a computer cable and an OBD2 cable. During the tuning process, you'll be on battery power for quite a while, so it's a good idea to hook up a battery charger. You don't want to run flat in the middle of writing an ECU. Now, I've left out the initial read process because it's pretty boring. Following the prompts on screen is pretty easy, so I'd like to talk instead about the open flash tablet itself. The hardware itself, the tablet, isn't particularly special, but it doesn't have to be, and I'd rather save the money. I was under the impression that it would come preloaded with the tunes, but it did not. And when I did get the tunes, I did have some trouble getting the software to work on my laptop. With that said, the customer service was excellent. They answered multiple emails from me on the weekend with quick responses. The idea that they're going to take a look at your ECU before giving you a tune is actually a kind of comforting level of protection. There are 3 major tuners out there for the North American Abarth. You've got Torque, Eurocompulsion, and Open Flash Tablet. Of the 3, Open Flash Tablet's the least expensive and advertises the lowest peak horsepower. They offer 2 base levels of tuning as well as custom remote tuning. Today we're adding the first level, or stage 1. I don't remember if it's a stage, a phase, or what. But number 1 today. We'll be adding number 2 later on after a couple more mods go on. What I'm showing now is the actual writing of the tune to the ECU. The tablet's interacting directly with the ECU right now. So this is one of the reasons why I put on the battery charger. I don't close and open doors, press buttons, or give it any unnecessary input while this is going on. I don't know that it would cause a problem, but I'm not taking any chances.
Worst part ever. Warm up, you bastard. Oh no, it meant exceed.
During the write process, it needs to do a little bit of mapping. This is the fun part. 3 wide open throttle pulls, please.
Revving for science. Writing complete. Alright, switched off for 10 seconds. Ta-da!
Alright, science time. Let's test it out. Here's my stock run from way back when. What was it, about 4.7 seconds. After the stock pull, I did some free horsepower mods, which you can check out in a separate video. Here's that run. The free horsepower mod shaved 0.8 of a second off of my 20 to 50 mile per hour time. So let's test the tune. As a reminder for those new here, we're doing a rolling 20 to 50 mile per hour wide open throttle pull, and we're using some of my autocross telemetry to track the data and come up with pretty accurate times. Boom, there went another half a second. So yeah, half a second isn't quite as much as the 0.8 I lost from the Boost League mod, but keep in mind, diminishing returns. The next quarter second's going to take even more horsepower than the last half second did. Overall, I am fairly pleased. For the Boost League mods, I really couldn't trust my butt dyno enough to say there was a difference. As soon as I installed the Open Flash tablet, I felt the difference immediately. Every autocross course has 1 to 2 big, long straights where maximizing your top speed pays off, like this one right here. I'm now running 1.5 seconds or better against my 20 to 50 time versus stock. That's going to translate into 5 or 6 seconds potentially on each autocross course, which puts me really in a whole different class of vehicle. I just need to install the mods, and then we'll give Stage 2 a test and try to squeeze a little more power out of this thing. Bear in mind, this is the least advertised power out of any of the ECU tunes. So if F1 is looking for their next driver in rural parking lots filled with middle-aged men driving front-wheel drive hatchbacks around traffic cones, I may have missed an opportunity. But I'll take that risk. Thanks for watching. Please like, click, and subscribe, or whatever you're supposed to do. I really appreciate it.